Good evening for Telesur. I'm Cody Weddle in Caracas, Venezuela. We begin tonight in Yemen. That's where airstrikes by over 100 Saudi airplanes have killed at least 25 people. It has sent shockwaves around the region. The bombing started on Wednesday night and has continued tonight. Its aim is to halt the advance of Houthi rebels, which Saudi Arabia sees as allied to Iran. And it also aims to support the Yemeni president, Abed Rabu Mansour Hadi, who has now fled to Saudi Arabia. Nashwan Abdullah, now in Damascus, reports on the situation.
The Saudi-led coalition warplanes targeted several locations in the Yemeni capital of Sana'a, including Sana'a airport and the defenses of Houthis rebels, which is located in residential areas. The attack have left about 40 civilians dead and more than 50 injured.
This coalition is always ready as an American tool to attack the sovereignty of the countries of the region, and this aggression will be met by a response from the people of Yemen, as the people of Syria will defend their country, sovereignty and land. This aggression will backfire.
Huge protests started in the Yemeni capital and many other provinces, condemning the intervention and demanding an end to the military operation against Yemen. The Syrian people see this assault as similar to the situation in Syria, and it's for the interest of America.
When the political dialogue began peacefully in Yemen, the Saudi intervention brought an end to that, and the U.S. role in the intervention is obvious.
While many countries are condemning the military operation against Yemen, the Arab League has declared its approval for the aggression. Nashwan Abdullah, Telesur, Damascus, Syria.
Back to Latin America now. The community of Latin American and Caribbean states has issued a statement of opposition to the U.S. government's belligerent policy toward Venezuela. CELAC calls on U.S. President Barack Obama to repeal the decree in which he declares Venezuela a threat. The organization also calls for dialogue between both countries. It reaffirmed its support for the government of President Nicolas Maduro. Cuba has proposed that a pending human rights dialogue with the United States begin next week in Washington. Now, that would come at the same time as ongoing negotiations to restore diplomatic relations. Cuba first proposed the talks last year. Cuban leaders reiterated the idea after the two countries agreed in December to reestablish diplomatic ties and seek to normalize trade and travel.
We are conscious that we and the U.S. government have profound differences in terms of our political systems, democracy, human rights, and international rights. But at the same time, we remain invariably hopeful that both countries can relate in a civilized way, whilst recognizing and respecting these differences.
Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has been in Latin America this week, and he's been in Central America, where our correspondent Gerardo Torres is covering his visit.
Today, Central America's regional meeting of foreign ministers in Guatemala will have the presence of the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, who is finishing a 4-day Latin American tour. The agenda has to do in the cooperation in the fight against drug trafficking, the preparation of security forces, and commerce and investment between Russia and the Central American countries. Earlier this week, Lavrov visited Cuba, Colombia, and Nicaragua in an effort to strengthen the relationship between Russia and the Latin American countries. Gerardo Torres, Telesur, Central America.
And we go to Mexico now, where 6 months have passed since the disappearance of 43 students. It was last September when dozens of students from the Ayutzinapa's Teachers Training College were attacked by local police. 6 people were killed. The police then reportedly turned 43 students over to the organized crime group Guerreros Unidos. They have been missing ever since. A group of relatives and partners of the 43 victims is currently touring the United States to raise awareness of their struggle for justice. The families reject the Mexican state's official claims and believe that the government has not done enough to find the students. The case has shown a global spotlight on the wave of human rights violations in Mexico, where tens of thousands have disappeared in recent years. The families hope to take their case to the United Nations at the end of April. For more now, we turn to our correspondent in Washington, Alexandra Hall.
Six months ago this week, an altercation with police in Iguala, Mexico, resulted in the disappearance of 43 students. Now this month, allies of those students and their family members are on a tour of the United States to raise awareness around their case. They're asking the U.S. government to stop financing the Mexican military. They say that those funds exacerbate state violence and also impunity in Mexico. Now the caravan of family members, activists and their allies will be visiting over 40 U.S. cities over the next few weeks. They've already visited Los Angeles, San Diego, and El Paso, Texas, among other cities. This week in Washington, the lawyer of the family members and also a father of one of the students who survived the incident arrived here in Washington, and they have already met with immigrant advocates and also members of Congress. Now, because Thursday marks the official 6-month anniversary of the student's disappearance, there will be a protest held in front of the State Department. Later, activists will march to the Mexican embassy, where they will be holding a vigil. All of this just 2 weeks before all of the caravan's members are expected to arrive in Washington in early April. In Washington, D.C., I'm Alexandra Hall for Telesur.
And in Argentina now, the Federal Appeals Chamber has rejected a request to investigate late prosecutor Alberto Nisman's accusation against President Cristina Fernandez and other government officials. They say they won't investigate due to lack of evidence. Laureana Ponce in Buenos Aires with more.
Argentina will denounce Great Britain to the United Nations because of their decision to increase their military presence in the Malvinas Islands. The UK made this decision under the pretext of a possible Argentine invasion of the archipelago, which Argentine officials have rejected. Foreign Affairs Minister Hector Timmermans said that Argentina will make a complaint to the Decolonization Committee of the UN regarding this issue, and also Defense Minister Agustin Rossi said that he did not receive any official communications about this increasing of their military presence of the UK in Malvinas, but nevertheless he said the idea of Argentina invading the islands is total nonsense. Laureano Ponce, Telesur, Buenos Aires.
And in world news now, aerial shots in Iraq show the effect of U.S.-led airstrikes near the city of Tikrit. The operation to retake Tikrit was launched on March 2nd. It had failed to dislodge a relatively small number of Islamic State fighters who had surrounded themselves with thousands of bombs for a last stand in the city center. The Pentagon claims its strikes will spare civilian lives and infrastructure.
As I watch the pieces of this come together with respect to the training, with respect to our enabling, with respect to our firepower and fire support provided to the Iraqi security forces, it seems to be unfolding in a manner which I think will be successful in Iraq. And so we'll keep a close eye on this, and obviously we'll remain in close consultation with the Congress on the issue of resources.
The United States and Iran are continuing their nuclear talks in Switzerland after a 6-day pause. With the deadline for a deal less than 1 week away, Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif and his U.S. counterpart John Kerry are still trying to overcome hurdles. The U.S., for one, is confident a deal will be reached before the deadline. Trade documents revealed by WikiLeaks are expected to provide a look into the secret negotiations of the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Now, the documents show that the U.S. led negotiations, including a section that would allow corporations to sue governments. They could file the lawsuits if domestic laws like labor and environmental regulations interfere with their profits. The partnership would be the largest trade agreement in history, covering 12 countries responsible for 40% of world trade. During his final briefing to the 15-member body of the UN Security Council, outgoing United Nations Special Coordinator for the Middle East, Robert Serri, urged action to be taken on the Israeli-Palestinian peace process.
On 17 March, general elections were held in Israel. We congratulate Prime Minister Netanyahu and the Likud party on winning the highest number of seats and note that President Rivlin has invited him to form the next government, a process that may take several weeks. However, I am frankly concerned by many of the hardline statements put forward in the final days of campaigning, in particular remarks by the Prime Minister raising serious doubts about Israel's commitment to the two-state solution. I urge the incoming Israeli government to seize the opportunity of a fresh mandate, to quickly demonstrate in words and, more importantly, by actions, this commitment.
The German Wings plane that went down in the French Alps was intentionally crashed by its co-pilot. Lufthansa CEO Carsten Spohr confirmed that evidence leads to the conclusion that the co-pilot of the flight locked the captain out of the cockpit and then deliberately started the fatal descent into the French Alps. In Dusseldorf, Germany, the lights were on and journalists gathered at an apartment believed to be that of 28-year-old Andreas Lubitz. He was the co-pilot who is believed to have deliberately brought down the plane. Prosecutors say authorities are searching his home for evidence. And on a cultural note this evening, statues at Syria's National Museum of Damascus are being protected from the Islamic State. Head of Antiquities Mamoun Abdul Karim says that the pieces are being moved in an effort to avoid theft or destruction by the group. Syria has been the home of many civilizations over the millennia, from the Canaanites to the Ottomans, and it is rich in both artistic and architectural treasures. And of course, we've been following the ICC cricket action with you. Australia was on fire at the Melbourne Cricket Grounds, moving ahead to a 7th World Cup final with a 95-run victory over champions India. To the delight of the crowd, as you saw there, Steve Smith's 105 helped Australia to a total of 328 for 7. That's the highest in a World Cup semifinal. And although skipper Mahendra Singh Dhoni hit a defiant 65 in what might be his final one-day innings, India was dismissed for 233 in the 47th over. In the end, Australia won by 95 runs. They will face New Zealand now in Sunday's final.
I think New Zealand will take confidence that they've beaten us in the tournament. But I believe that was the turning point in this tournament for the Australian team. I think that gave us a bit of a kick up the backside. We knew we got a good look at, a very good team playing at the top of their game, certainly with the ball. And I think our attitude from that day has been exceptional.
5 Chelsea fans who appeared in front of magistrates on Wednesday plan to fight attempts to ban them from soccer matches. Now, they are suspected of involvement in an incident in Paris in which a black man was prevented from boarding a train. Video captured by a passenger on the platform at the metro station showed the accused men chanting, quote, we're racist, and that's the way we like it," end quote. The full hearing will take place at Waltham Forest Magistrates Court on July 15th. Tomorrow, 2 astronauts will launch into space to spend an unprecedented 12 months in orbit. NASA astronaut Scott Kelly and Russian cosmonaut Mikhail Kornikov will launch from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan to the International Space Station, where they will stay for 1 full year. They will study exactly how the human body reacts and adapts to long journeys deep into the solar system, including to Mars. Plenty more on those stories and others at our website, telesurtv.net/English. We'll have the latest headlines for you again tomorrow. For now, for Telesur English, I'm Cody Weddle.